Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And let's take a look at the new Frieren the Slayer collab unit, the title character. And she seems to be fairly good for most circumstances, except for ones where you don't want a synergy. But that's a stage-specific thing. But first off, she does use a hammer. However, if you go into the event shop, we do have some free gear for her. So you can buy 2 staffs, 2 jackets, and 2 earrings, and you could, super awaken them and everything, but she has unique gear. And something very interesting about the earrings is that when equipped by her, she has a 100% chance to dodge bind. So as long as she has these on, she cannot be locked into the slot, which is incredible. It only works for her, because if you put her on someone else, it doesn't do anything, because it's only when equipped by Frieren. But it's that's pretty important moving forward in the game. The other stuff, they're just typical, defense and attack, nothing special. But we don't normally get accessories for characters, and so the fact that we got one that has 100% bind dodge is incredible. She's on Adventure, Fount of Wisdom, Wielder of Magic, teams that can definitely use her and her damage buffs. And my Frieren is 120. Her ability release board is completely done, so she is pretty much maxed out except for her weapon. And her ult at max level is 375%, and then EX is double. She is an attack ult, AoE damage. And then her first skill, you need to use it 3 turns prior to when you actually want to nuke. But after those 3 turns are up, you get a 100% attack buff, which does stack. So if you want to use this and another temporary attack buff, you certainly can, which is very interesting. Normally it's only like a permanent and a temporary buff, but this is a temporary buff and a temporary buff you can put on, and we'll show that in practice. And then also, after the 3 turns are up, all the enemies get an 80% element debuff, which isn't the strongest thing in the world, but it does increase your damage, and it's free, essentially, because it's added on. And then her second skill is guaranteed synergy for you and everybody else on your team, including the back, and then 120% ult damage, which is quite a bit. Her Valor trait lowers ult gauge, so if you put her on a defense team, she can wipe out somebody's ult gauge and be very annoying. And then her actual trait is protection gauge every 2 turns, which is great. One of the better traits in the game. But let's go ahead and check her out in practice. Alright, starting off, we're going to go super big time damage. We're going fully wanked out team. So Himmel, Ogre's Pride Soe, his skill has an attack buff for magic allies, which means that you would think that this part of the skill and then Frieren's attack from her first skill wouldn't work. But we're going to show you that it does work together. And then he's got the synergy power, which if you use 300 points in a turn, you get 100%, which we're going to do that. Violet, 100% magic buff. Octogram Lumi, permanent 80% ult damage, 30% AoE damage, will work very well and will stack alongside Frieren's 120, so we're going to have 200% ult damage. And then we have Overlord Shizu, who is also on Adventurer, by the way, and she's got the weakness strike and ult resistance down, and the ult swap, which we're going to see actually can function quite well, even though running an orange team. Okay, so because we have Lumi and we have Frieren and Shizu and a whole butt ton of protection gauge units, we don't really need an orange converter turn 1. What we're actually going to do is we're going to use Soe to convert 2 oranges to blues, and then we're going to bring Frieren and Shizu in, and then we've got, I think, 5 characters giving us protection gauge. Shizu, Milim, Frieren, Blanc, Octogram Lumi. And now by sending 4 blues, we're going to get protection gauge, and we're going to get a butt ton more as well from those 5 traits. Not realistic for, a lot of people, but it's pretty fun if you have access to it. And they don't really do a lot of damage to you here, so we're looking pretty good. Here we go. So, boom, yeah, almost. Oof, that's nice. Alright, so let's use a stack of the ult buff, so it's 20% permanent. And then we'll use Himmel, and he'll change these 3 greens, and then the next turn, turn 3, he'll change 3 more orbs automatically. He's giving us an element buff. He's giving us a 500% skill point buff to oranges, so we get a butt ton of skill points here. You know, this team, even though it has no real orb converters, works pretty well, as long as you can get some protection gauge here and there. We're running protection gauge on orange charm because it's going to be the most impactful thing. And look at that, 2 orbs that are not orange. Well, Himmel's going to change that because automatic conversion, boom, there we go. And now, I mean, we could use him again. We don't have to use him again. Let's use some points, though. So that's our second stack of the alt, our first stack of the AoE, and we'll send this over here. 5, 6. Not quite another Himmel, but that's okay. We'll hold on to it. And now we have an EX alt for Frieren, and it's turn 3, so that's real nice. But we need to be here until turn 8, around there. Oh, but look, a blue. Go away. Boom. Okay. Look, we have 3 alts. Oh, well, that's unfortunate. I guess we should just alt swap away, stack and stack. Boom, boom, boom. And then we have Himmel, which means that he will automatically convert 3 orbs to orange. So no matter what, you can kind of get around this. And it actually works out fairly well. And if you don't have Shizu, you can bring like light Blanc if you want. And that would also just work just as well. She's a triple alt swapper. Or you could bring Ogre's Pride Shuna if you wanted. She'll give at least Weakness Strike to Frieren and be a triple alt swapper. So this team, while seemingly very wonky, works out fairly well. So we're taking 1 damage. Excellent. Now it's going to be turn 5. So this is where we need to use her other skill. So 3 turns after skill activation, Unleash Magic. You can use this in the back line. You can send her away, and we're going to do that as an example. So let's do the final stacks of everything here. So alt swap, alt buff, AoE damage, and now Lumi is maxed out. So that's fine. Let's use Himmel to give these 3 oranges, or give us 3 oranges off of these greens, another element buff, and then we'll just send Frieren away. Like, she's good. She's ready to go. And 1, 2, let's send this on Yuki, actually. Spread the damage out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright, and now we just need to wait 3 turns for it to go down. But as each turn progresses, we can check in the back, and the turn counter for Frieren will have gone down. Oh, look at that. Another 3 non-orange orbs that's going to be automatically changed. And then Himmel, once we alt swap, will change them. Oh, man. I do like this team, actually. Alright, so turns remaining, 2. You see, it even counts down on your screen. She doesn't need to be up front for that to work. And even when her buffs kick in, it'll kick in automatically. So now it's turned down to 2 turns. So let's do it again. Let's alt swap again. Boom. Let's use Himmel again. I think there's going to be like turn 7 where we don't have access to Himmel. Not a big deal. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, we're not going to make it back, but we'll make it enough back for the final turn, turn 8. So Frieren, you know, she is a DPS character and a support, so it's not like she's doing things constantly every single turn that you need her. She's meant to do damage or use her as a supporting character to make other units do a lot of damage. So here, I don't have Himmel, so I couldn't change these 3 orbs, but, I mean, I don't really need to, so let's just send it, and then we'll get max points, we'll get access to Himmel again, and we'll be ready to go next turn. So Soe, alright, cool. Pierce resistance down, we're not piercing this fight, so it's not a big deal. 65k. Shizu, 296. Oh, is Gazel dead? I probably should have sent this somewhere else. Oh, he lives. Great. That's actually really good. Okay, and we've got some orbs for Lumi, which is great. So now, Frieren kicks in. The debuffs are now put on the enemy because it's been 3 turns since we used her first skill. It works even though she's in the back. And now, we bring her up front for Lumi. Boom. So we check her now, and she has 100% attack from Unleash Magic. Okay. Well, let's do some other things. Let's do the Shizu buff. Boom. Weakness Strike. Alt resistance down. Let's do Violet for her magic buff. Boom. Let's use Frieren's synergy and alt damage buff. So that's 250 points used right there, right? If math serves me correctly. 80 plus 90, right? Somewhere around there, yeah. So we need to use a couple more things like this. So orb change, boom, boom. And then we can use Soe, 70% attack, 100% synergy power. And we can see now on Frieren that instead of being grayed out, because we have the 100% attack right here from Unleash Magic, the 70% attack from Soe is still activated. And that's specifically because the wording of Frieren's skill, attack increase stacks. So you can use multiple attack buffs to, well, at least a different kind of attack buff to get Frieren. So you could use that 100% right here. You could use Soe or Exalted Champion Rimuru. You could use Adventurer Shizu with her 15% stacks. Like, those would all count, technically. But let's do Himmel for one more extra stack of element buff, and then we'll check her out. So we've got, in total, 120 plus 80, so 200% alt damage. We've got 100% element buff from Himmel. We've got 30% AoE, 100% attack buff, 100% weakness strike, 100% magic attack, 70% attack, 100% synergy power, and then the enemies have an 80% element debuff and then 50% alt resistance down. And this Frieren is going to hit like a truck. So let's just see what... you know what? Actually, no. I know how much damage she does, and she's going to kill anybody with one orb, so we'll just send the ult. Actually, you know what? We'll do this. We'll send the one on Gazel, and then we'll nuke the other two. Call it a day. 800,000 damage right there. A 200% orb does, almost 2 million damage. But Frieren's ult, she is totally buffed up right now. This is probably the max that I can get her to. And she does 35 million damage. 35 million. This is day one of her being out. Her full team isn't here. We're still missing at least Fern and somebody else, and she's doing 35 million on an AoE. Like, that's really good. And we saw that her Unleash Magic can work in the back, and it stacks with other attack buffs. So this is like almost the pinnacle of what Frieren can do right now. Alright, next we're going to use her as a support unit for her alt damage and her synergy and the element down. So we're going to go into Tempered Edge Veldora. He's got quite a bit of HP. We're going to run Commander Renard because he's a generic stacking protector. And we're going to nuke with Blanc since she is single target light magic. And we're going to activate pretty much everything from her. So we've got Rimuru for the rainbow orbs. Frieren, alt buff, element down. Violet for the magic buff, the orb change. Blanc has her own weakness strike and synergy resistance down, which in this team normally wouldn't matter because no one would be giving us synergy. Well, now Frieren is giving everybody synergy rate, so we can actually benefit off of Blanc's second part of her skill. And then we've got Lumi for the green orb change and the light buff. So this should work, fairly well, even as a support character. Alright, we got a good, well, mostly good turn 2 starter, turn 2 hands, so we can use just Violet's orb change again. Not a lot of Blanc orbs, but oh well. But we have 3 light characters, so even if we didn't want to use Blanc as the nuker and we wanted to use Frieren, we totally could, and it would still work out very well. Like, this team would still cater to their buffs, because everyone's light, weakness, strike, synergy, blah, 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 blah. It's a properly built team, and it will work, which is great to think about, because it means that Frieren has generic value as both a support and a DPS character, which is what you're generally looking for out of characters as far as overall viability. If a character's only good for nuking but has no support characteristics at all, like, that's not super great. If a character is a good support but can't do good damage, like most of the new support alt characters, like, it's kind of a disappointment. So you gotta find a good balance. Ooh, perfect, actually. Let's do this. So let's bring Rimuru in. Let's do his self-convert, and then let's do the rainbow buff. Boom. Boom. Perfect. And then we'll bring Lumi in. And now this will jumpstart the EX ult for Blanc. It'll probably get Frieren's EX ult, because we got 3 orbs for her. Oh, very close. Not as much as I had hoped for Blanc, but now we have at least 2 ults, so that means 2 guaranteed blue orbs. And now we could use Blanc's ult swap, which is going to be great. So, this is good. Ooh, that's really good right there. Perfect. Alright. Love to see that. Lumi, you can get out of here. And yeah, we'll do this. So, I mean, there's not much to do right now, because we are just a traditional stacking team. But you understand the concept of what we're trying to do. Like, we're trying to use her as a support character, and it's going to work. We just have to get to that point. So I'm going to make a cut, and we'll get to turn 8. Next turn, we're going to use the skill for Frieren, which will put the element resistance down on turn 8, and we'll be looking good. So I'll be right back. Okay, we are back. We're about to go to turn 8. We have one more turn of the magic, I forget what it's called, but Frieren's first skill. So this upcoming turn is turn 8, the traditional nuke turn. His defense is leaving and everything. We have enough points. We have the EX ult, so this is the Unleash Magic. There's the element down. So Frieren now has 100% attack, which is great if you wanted to nuke with her. But if you're using her support, this element down will help Blanc do more damage, just because it's a universal debuff, and it's not restricted to just light characters, it's every element. So no matter who you bring, you're going to get guaranteed synergy, 120% ult damage, and an 80% elemental debuff for whoever you're trying to nuke with, which I think is just really, really good. So let's bring Violet in, let's use her magic buff, boom. And then we'll bring Light Lumi in. We'll do her 80% light buff because she's fused. Yeah, 80% light. And then we'll do the Weakness Strike Synergy Resistance down. And then we'll activate the Synergy and then 120 ult damage. 2 stacks of Renard. And we'll see how hard Blanc hits now. Which I assume is probably pretty hard, because we've been stacking forever. So, proof of concept. Frieren is going to be a good support character for future teams, because it's not even like a generic, or it's not even a restricted kind of support buff. Alt buff hits everybody, element down hits everybody, and guaranteed synergy is everybody. So there are literally no restrictions for bringing Frieren as a support character. 153k, 240, and then her alt, yeah, we'll watch it. God, she's hot. We got 3 white-haired waifus on the team, and I'm sure people will have their preference, but, you know, I still like Blanc. I can't pronounce that word still, but Blanc does 5.3 million. I mean, is that good? Yes, that is objectively a good number. So, I'm not seeing any real big faults with Frieren. She can DPS, she can support, she's got turn 2 protection gauge trait. She's light, which means that she's going to be type neutral against everything except dark, where she's type advantage. I guess we can put her on a burst team now. I don't know if the stage has enough HP for us to make it work, but we're going to try. So, you know, EC Velzard, Rimuru, the Awakened Isis and Kyokyo, so low-cost buffs, and then the big-cost buff from Frieren, and, I mean, technically this should work, right? We just need to store up some points, but otherwise, I think we're going to be okay. Okay. We'll try and make this work. We can at least change into a 5-hand of green, and then I think we'll bring her in for Rimuru, since he's got another orb incoming. Yeah, and then we'll bring you in for Kyokyo. We'll send these orbs. We'll send Frieren last. That way we don't do too much damage. And then the traits will kick in and we'll get access to Velzard next turn. We could use the green buff with Veldora. And then hopefully we can at least get a normal ult. Ooh, perfect. Actually, that's really, really good. So we might be able to get her EX ult. Depending. Oh, yeah, okay, damage. Cool. Traits kick in. Perfect. Let's green buff now. Let's use the Zenith of Magic. And then we can wait that out 3 turns. And, like, because we don't have to use it turn 5. We've only been using it turn 5 for the past 2 clips because we were using stacking teams. Like, you don't have to do that, which is great. You have the choice. You could do it early, you could do it later. It doesn't really matter all that much, as long as you do want to use it. So let's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll send this over here. That gets her halfway to an EX ult. Okay, let's see if we get some more orbs for her next turn, and then I think we can start storing a buff maybe, or we can get 1 orb for her. So you know what? We're gonna run it like this. So let's just do the Kyokyo buff and the Rimuru buff, right? So Rimuru buff, Rainbow Orb for funsy onesies, and then we'll bring Kyokyo in for Rimuru. Yeah, and then we'll use his buff, which is Magic Attack and Weakness Strike within the first 5 turns, and then we'll just send Frieren away. And then we'll just have her sit in the back for a couple more turns while her buff winds down its turn count, and then we'll be ready to nuke later on. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hopefully we don't kill too hard. Actually, we could probably send Veldora last. Oh, should have sent something on Xion. Oh, we killed. Unfortunate. Okay, well, we can still see some damage. 1 more turn, and then we need to build up some points, which we certainly have, so we'll just chill here. And next turn, we are ready to go. We've got maximum points. We've got enough to use the big buff and Isis, so we'll be looking good. So there's the element down, because it still works in the back. Frieren will now have her 100% attack buff, plus the 70% that we already have from Exalted Champion Rimuru. We'll bring you in for Veldora. And then we'll use the Isis buff. We don't need to do this because we're not piercing, so let's then just use the guaranteed synergy and ult damage. And even with just a normal ult, we can do a lot of power. I mean, we can use the Unleash Magic State early in 5 turns. It'll work. And Frieren now does 2.4 million damage. I mean, that's really good. She can work in multiple different ways on multiple different teams depending on what you're trying to do. And that is the hallmark of a good character. So, is Frieren good? Yeah, very much so. I think she's going to have a lot of lasting value as time goes on, and I implore people to summon for her, not just because she is a collab character, but because she can do pretty much anything that you want. So, let me know what you guys think of Frieren. Do you think I'm overselling her? Do you think she's just as good as what I'm saying? Let me know in the comments, but that's it from me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.